Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and please support my work, and buy me a coffee worth $1 only. Support link in the comment, thanks. What seemed like just a few more minutes later, the sun illuminating my bedroom awakened me. I sat up in bed and stretched. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom. After washing my face and hands, I put on my robe and slippers and went downstairs. I was the first one up this morning, so I started breakfast. Instead of the usual bacon and eggs, I made pancake batter. Mom always bought the premix kind. Nothing to do except add water and stir. I made enough for 4 on the assumption that Mom, Carol, and Aunt Jessica would want them also. As I stirred the mix, Mom and Aunt Jessica came in. While I heated the pan and melted some margarine in it to coat the surface, Mom made the orange juice and a pot of tea. I started to cook the pancakes as soon as the frying pan was hot enough. By the time that the first batch was ready, Carol had come down. I continued cooking until all the batter was used up. Then I joined the others at the table. They had already started on the pancakes when I sat down. Some families wait until everybody is seated before starting to eat, but we always believed that you should eat the food when it was hot, and nobody was ever insulted by having the others start to eat before you do. I took a couple of pancakes and put maple syrup on them. I used to have 6 or 7, but now 2 would fill me up. The tartness of the orange juice, followed by the sweetness of the maple syrup, followed by the bitterness of the tea, really had my taste buds messed up. Because of the maple syrup's sweetness, I had to add 2 extra teaspoons of sugar to my tea. Mom said, "This was a nice change, Crystal. It seems like we've been having bacon and eggs every morning for the past month. I guess that's been my fault. I've been the first one up each day since I got involved with the theater group, and I've been starting breakfast. I'll try to vary it a little more often." I had to sit and drink my tea until it looked like Carol was ready to go upstairs. I couldn't take my bath without her help, since she would have to release me from my corset. Thinking about the corset, I realized that I was thinking about it less and less. Today was the 5th day that I have worn it, so it was becoming normal to have it on. Especially since I have been wearing it 23.5 hours a day. Another thought occurred to me also. I had been trying to copy the actions and mannerisms of the women around me so that I could blend in. I realized that I had adopted the exaggerated movements with my hands that many women have. Well, after all, that had been the point. To walk like, talk like, move like, and look like a woman so that no one would guess my true identity. Mr. Tucker had congratulated me on my acting skills when I had told him that no one had yet unmasked me. While Carol finished her tea, I cleared the table and loaded the breakfast dishes into the dishwasher after rinsing them first. I asked Carol to help me when she came upstairs, and I went up ahead of her. I removed my robe and sleepwear and started to run my bath. Carol came in and helped me out of the corset. I had come to love my bath time each morning, mainly because I was released from the corset for the all-too-short event. I laid back and enjoyed the warm water and the ability to breathe in unrestricted amounts of air. When the water started to chill, I knew that bath time was almost over. I finished washing myself and exited the tub. After patting myself dry, I powdered my body and walked back into my bedroom. When I had put on my panties and girdle, I stood in front of the mirror to examine my breasts. There was still no indication that they were anything but the real article. I put on a clean bra, fresh chemise, and stockings, prior to putting on the corset. As I had been doing, I tightened the corset as much as I could, then sat down to work on my face. I heard Carol get into the bathtub and wondered if she enjoyed hers as much as I enjoyed mine. I plucked a few small hairs in my eyebrows, and then began to work on my face. Carol came into my bedroom after she had completed her bath, and tightened my corset. As I walked around to get used to the new restriction after my half an hour of freedom, it dawned on me that Carol had been naked. I had become so used to seeing my own boobs that seeing hers did not even cause me to notice that they were not covered. When she came back in, she was dressed. She tightened me down so that I could barely breathe, and tied off the laces. She helped me into full slip, and then dressed me in a peasant blouse and tight skirt. As usual, her clothes were tight on me except for the waist. There, they were quite loose. Due, no doubt, to the work of the corset. Carol put my shoes on me since I could not bend, and then worked on my hair. Instead of the ponytail that I had been wearing for the past couple of days, she divided my hair into 2 parts and braided them on the back of my head. I liked the look and thanked her when she was done. She bent over and kissed me on the cheek. "You're welcome, sis. I have something for you." Then she handed me a small white box. I opened it and saw a pair of the earrings that she had purchased last night at the mall. She said, "I thought that these would look perfect on you. I saw your face when you tried them on, so I bought them for you. They're yours to keep." I put them right on and then stood and hugged her as I thanked her for her generosity. I had to fix my face again after we separated. I had shed a few tears and made my mascara run. After that she returned to her room and I continued to get ready to leave. When I was done, I stood and checked my appearance in the mirror. The tight skirt, low-cut peasant blouse, and 4-inch heels continued the perceived image of a blonde bimbo. At least in my own mind. I went downstairs and found Mom and Aunt Jessica watching a morning talk show. I hit Mom up for more money. I had to explain where I had spent the $5 that she had given to me yesterday. 75 cents for the bus, $2.25 for lunch, and $1.75 for ice cream last night. "Okay, dear, here's another $5. "Thanks, Mom." "Goodbye, goodbye, Aunt Jess." They both said, "Goodbye," and I left to catch the bus. As I stood on the street corner waiting for the bus, a car with 3 boys stopped. One of them yelled, "Hey, doll, wanna ride?" "No thank you," I said politely. "Aww, come on. We'll save you the bus fare. We'll take you anywhere that you want to go." "No thank you." "What's the matter, slut? Think that you're too good for us?" I turned to look in another direction. "I'm talking to you, bitch. Don't turn away from me." The boy who was doing all of the talking started to get out of the car. I began to get very scared. I knew that I could never outrun him in the tight skirt and heels. Besides, the corset would prevent me from running more than half a block anyway. I felt very vulnerable. The boy with the foul mouth towered over me and said, "My bitches look at me when I'm talking or I start handing out black eyes." I turned to face him. "I am not a one of your bitches. Nor will I ever be one. Now get lost." He stood and stared at me for several seconds while trying to decide what to do. Just as he took a step towards me, and I took a step backwards, a police siren chirped out. The police car had come up behind the car that the boys were riding in. One of the officers got out while the other was using the radio. The officer came over to us and said, "What seems to be the trouble here?" The boy said, "No trouble, officer. I was just asking for directions." The officer looked at me and said, "Is that right, miss?" The boy glared at me as I spoke. "No, officer." This boy and his friends offered me a ride. When I refused, he got abusive and threatening. "That's a lie," the boy said. "All I wanted was directions to the nearest McDonald's." The officer said, "Save it, Barton. I know you well enough to believe the lady without question." "Miss, would you like to file a complaint?" "No, officer. If he had touched me I would, but no harm was done. Just some abusive language. I would rather just forget it." "Okay, miss." The other officer called out that the vehicle was clean. "Barton, you're getting off easy this time. But I'm going to be watching you closer than ever. One wrong move and I'm going to lock you up and lose the key. You got that?" "Yes, Officer Daly." "Now, get out of here before I decide to strip search you for weapons." The boy turned and got back into the car. He looked at me and said, "I'll be seeing you again, girl." The boy behind the wheel started the car and drove away. The police officer said, "I don't think that they'll give you any more trouble today, miss." I smiled at him and said, "Thank you, Officer Daly." "My pleasure, miss." My bus arrived just as the police car pulled away. I was relieved to climb the steps and take a seat. I started to shake after I had sat down. The stress of the incident had taken its toll on my nervous system. I trembled for 5 minutes before calming down. I was fine again by the time that we reached the downtown area. I walked to the side entrance to the theater and opened the door. Stepping inside, I waited while my eyes became accustomed to the low illumination of the theater. Then I walked to the makeup room and put my purse up on the shelf where it would be safe and yet out of the way. I went to the coffee maker on stage left and brewed a fresh pot of coffee. There was about a cup left from yesterday. That was unusual, as Mr. Tucker usually drained the pot every day. With the new coffee dripping into the pot, I walked across the stage to reach the wardrobe room. My heels clicking on the stage echoed throughout the empty theater. Barbara was working away on her sewing machine, making the alterations that she had measured for yesterday. She looked up as I entered. "Good morning, Crystal dear. How are you today?" "Fine, Barbara. How are you?" "Couldn't be better. It's such a glorious day outside that I walked to the theater instead of taking my car. I can't remember the last time that I felt like walking 8 blocks. I smiled and said, "Yes, it is lovely outside today." "Barbara, have you heard any word yet from any of the distributors?" "Not yet, dear. But it's still very early. We have to give them a chance to have their coffee and settle down to business. The manufacturer still has the closed for the holiday," a message on their telephone answering machine. "I'll let you know as soon as I hear from somebody." "Okay, Barbara. I'll stop back later."
Bye.
Dear. I went to the desk that was set up on stage right and turned on the desk lamp. I sat down and began to organize the script notes that Mr. Tucker had made yesterday. I typed everything into the computer's word processor program and printed out the pages. Then I punched them with the 3-hole punch and inserted them into Mr. Tucker's notebook. By the time that I was done, cast members were starting to arrive. Everyone addressed me as Crystal. By now, all of the cast members knew of the accident and had been admonished about saying anything about it outside of the theater. Actors were a different breed. They blithely accepted such things where most people would not. Each and every member had treated me as a young lady yesterday, rather than as a boy in a dress. Please like and subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access. Patreon.com/Eden07. Link in the comment. Thanks.